Hello everyone, today we're going to talk 1911s. Okay, so I've got two of them here. This one is the Taurus PT 1911, okay, and this one here is the Rock Island 1911. So they're both about the same size. Basically the original dimensions of the 1911. Uh, the more true to the original because it has the thumb safety just on one side, okay, and the iron sights are really low, okay, which I really don't like. Okay, but this one is closer to the original 1911 design. Now this Taurus one is the original one, the first one I bought. This one's about 15 years old. Okay, so this one over here has about 15,000 rounds on it. Uh, you know, it went to about 14,500 rounds before anything broke on it. Okay, and the thing that broke on it was there's this ring that goes over the muzzle over here that kind of kind of holds this thing together. I forget what it's called, but that's the thing that cracked. And what happened is it cracked and the spring just came flying out. So yeah, so it took about 14,500 rounds to for this to break, for something to break. That was the item that broke, which I think not bad. Okay, out of 1911. I mean, it's not a Glock, right? So the gun's from a different era. So what happened was when this one broke, initially I tried to get the replacement part, right? I think I went to Wilson. I forgot what, but anyway, I went to this website that sold 1911 parts, and I bought the pieces that are supposed to go on it. Now this Taurus does have a lifetime warranty. However, this was in 2020. I was really busy. I just wanted to get the gun up and running, so I didn't care about paying for the parts. So I ordered the parts. I went to put them in. And as it turns out, that 1911 parts have to be fitted. Okay, so it's not like a Glock where basically, or an AR-15 where everything is like very standardized and you can expect the parts are going to fit in there. With a 1911, it doesn't work that way. The parts have to be fitted. So I had these parts that I ordered. Right, I forget exactly what the company was, and I said. I went to fit it. It wasn't fitting, and I'm like, you know what? Because at the time, like I hadn't even built any P80s. I really hadn't done a whole lot of gunsmithing at that point, at the point where this broke. So what I decided to do is, you know what? This thing has a lifetime warranty. Rather than sit here and try to force fit these parts and get this thing to try and work, and maybe I'll get it to work, maybe I won't get it to work. I said, you know what? Let me just send this to Taurus. Let them fix it under the lifetime warranty. Okay, so that's what I did. I sent this to Taurus. I took those parts which I had ordered, put them back in the box, sent those back, got a full refund for those. And then I found out that it was going to take Taurus something like 3 or 4 months to get this back to me. Okay, because again, this is 2020. Everything's like everybody's buying guns. Everything's going real slow. So what I decided to do, because again now I've got people that want to shoot 1911s. I basically ordered this guy. Okay, so this guy was meant to substitute that one until that one came back, and I think it was something like $400 or $450. This one, I think, when I ordered it, but this was remember this was now several years back, so this was like $550. This one I was able to get for about $400. So I said, let's get this pretty cheap. I just needed to get me through a couple of months until that gun gets up, it comes back, and that's how I ended up with this one. Okay, so that's the story of the 1911. Now, interestingly enough, I started off as a 1911 guy, right? 1911 and AK-47s. Okay, the person that trained me, right, my initial trainer, I went down to Texas for about a week and met up with a friend over there. Because I grew up in New York City, so it's not like I grew up with guns. I was like in my mid-30s or early 30s, something like that. Went down to Texas. Guy had a ranch over there. Spent about a week with him. and you know, he basically trained me on guns on you know, on his personal property, and then we also went to a commercial range as well. But he trained me in a gun that he primarily trained me on. I mean, he had a pretty large collection. I mean, I shot a whole bunch of guns, but primarily I was working with a 1911. Okay, so interestingly enough, like a lot of times people that start off with 1911s are like diehard 1911 fans, or like in my case, I had shot both AKs and ARs that weekend. So people that start off, whatever gun people tend to start off with, they tend to like fall in love with that gun. Okay, but that's not the case with me. Like, I do like the 1911, but I prefer Glocks. I mean, I carry a Glock 43. Most of the people that I train are on Glock 17s, and the durability has a lot to do with it. Like, as a trainer, right, I want guns that are durable, right? And my factory Glock 17 went 75,000 rounds before anything broke on it, and that's with the original recoil spring, everything. Okay, went 75,000 rounds, and the trigger spring is the thing that broke on it, and then it went another 20,000 rounds after that before the trigger spring broke again. So now it's up to 95,000 rounds. I kind of retired at that point, not because, I mean, the gun was probably only about halfway through its life, or at least the life of the barrel. The reason is because I started training people on guns with optics. Okay, so that's the reason why, like with 45 ACP, somebody wants to shoot a 45 ACP, I got the Glock 21 with the optic, and that's what I will generally train them on. Again, unless they specifically want to shoot a 1911. Okay, so I'm a big fan of optics. I've noticed that people, just especially beginners, shoot optics better. I noticed that I have a much higher retention rate with women, right? With women before optics, basically I could only keep about 20% of them. Once I put optics on gun, my retention rate with women went up to like 95, 98%. Okay, so optics are a must. Not that they shouldn't learn to shoot iron sights as well, but I start them with optics, so I know that they'll stick with it. Basically, I want to get them into the gun culture, right? So anyway, going back to 1911s. Despite the fact that I started off as a 1911 guy, I mean, why did I go to Glocks? First of all, it's the lighter, right? Because with this is all steel, so the lower here is steel compared to, just using this as an example, you know, the lower here is plastic, or the frame is plastic, so it's naturally a lighter gun. It's got more capacity, and when it breaks, it's easier to fix. Okay, this is one I actually built myself. Okay, so there's a Polymer 80 G21 that I fixed. So the thing with guns is there's three criteria that I have. Number one, the guns have to be reliable. That means police and military tested. Just because, you know, I want to know that lots of people have shot lots of rounds on them under lots of different conditions. Obviously, that applies to the 1911 because it's a combat gun, but that's the first criteria. The second criteria is I have to have access to parts. Okay, so that does apply to 1911s. It is, you know, just like it does with like Glock Gen 3s. I do have access to aftermarket parts. However, the issue that I ran into where the 1911 parts have to be fitted, you can't just drop them in. That's a deal breaker. Okay, because I ran into that problem. Like, no, this is, you know, especially like in 2020 when I'm busy, I didn't have time to be doing gunsmithing. I just needed to throw stuff in there, and I needed to work. And the third criteria is I have to have knowledge to fix the gun. Okay, so those are my three criteria. You know, it's got to be reliable, access to aftermarket parts, right? Not just factory, you know, original manufacturer parts, aftermarket parts, right? Because in 2020 I couldn't get, you know, original OEM parts. I have to have access to aftermarket parts, and I have to have knowledge to fix the gun. And again, now that turned into a problem with the 1911, because even though I got the parts, because they needed to be fitted, I wasn't quite sure what fittings I would have to do. Like, which part do I fit, and, you know, do I start to, you know, like with this particular piece, is it the front, is it the back? I mean, there was two pieces that needed to fit together, and I did get the barrel and the the sleeve, because I figured that the two would you know, those two needed to fit together. So I figured if I ordered the barrel and the sleeve from the same manufacturer, I think it was Wilson Combat, I figured it would fit, but I also had a problem with that fitting into the slide. So I'm like, forget it. Those parts are going back. This thing's going to the manufacturer. Let Taurus figure out how to fix this. And they did. They fixed it absolutely free. Didn't cost me a penny. Didn't even cost me shipping. They paid for me to ship it to Taurus. They paid for Taurus to ship it back to me. Okay, so it didn't cost me a penny. The problem is that it took 4 months for that to happen, and in those 4 months, I had to, I had to keep going. So that's why I got this guy here. So this guy here, the Rock Island ones. Again, the main issue I have is with the sights. When I for the 4 months that I was waiting for that gun to come back, basically I would tell people to line up their sights, and like a lot of people, because it's black on black, a lot of people, like, they couldn't even see it, So yeah, these sights are really low. At least with the Taurus ones, they're a little bit. It's a little bit bigger box here. You notice here, I did also put a little white paint over there to make it a little bit easier. And I think there is like a fiber optic or something in the middle over there. Let me see, is it still there or did it fall out? That looks like it's covered by dust or something. But anyway, I mean, it's a great gun. I like shooting 1911s. It's a great novelty. It's a great antique gun. Okay, I shoot cap and ball revolvers. But it's definitely not the gun I would recommend to a beginner. Okay, it's not a gun that I would recommend as an SHTF go-to gun, for the reason I explained to you guys, that hey, when the gun broke, it wasn't that easy to get back up and running. Okay, either because of getting parts to fit, whatever. Okay, so yeah, I would definitely recommend a Glock 21. Okay, now between the Glock 21 and I forgot what because this is a 45 ACP. I would probably tell people, you know what, go with the 10 millimeter. One of the things I have found was with 10 millimeter, you are able to also shoot 40 cal into that. I was kind of surprised. I didn't think it would cycle, but the 40 cal does cycle in the 10 millimeter. So if you like powerful handguns or powerful semi-automatic pistols, go with 10 millimeter. Now, one of the things that I have found with both 10 millimeter and 45 ACP, a lot of the target ammo that you will purchase is underpowered. Okay, so most of the target ammo that I have tested through a chronograph pretty much gets the same energy as a 9 millimeter, right? Somewhere around 330 to 350 foot-pounds. Okay, so a full power 45 ACP should be somewhere around 380, just below 400 foot-pounds. Okay, I mean, you can get plus P loads that'll go over 400, but the standard load should come in at about 380. Most of the target loads that I test with 45 ACP come in even sometimes below 9 millimeter. Like they'll come in at like 320, right? And this is out of the full length barrel, right? Even out of the full length barrel, they'll come in at about 320. So, and I've also found the same thing with 10 millimeter. A lot of times the 10 millimeters, they're really loaded to like 40 caliber low, power levels. Okay, so it's one of the things to just be aware of. Now, if you're buying the ammo just because it's cheap, I mean, yeah, just be aware that they do downgrade it. Add something about the 45 ACP cartridge, okay? Because usually when people talk about 45 ACP, they're going to talk about bigger holes, right? And they're going to talk about stopping power. So here's the thing: when you compare like 45 ACP, when you compare it to modern 9 millimeter that's intended for self-defense, where you got these plus P loads, with expanding hollow points that open up like almost to a 45, to a 45% inch hole. I don't think that you're getting that much of an advantage with the 45 ACP over a plus P hollow point 9 millimeter. Okay, but one of the things I've heard about 45 ACP, because I've heard people say great stopping power, etc. But I've also heard people say that it's terrible because they've seen it like deflect off of windshields, right? And it's like, okay, how do you reconcile these two things? How do some people say that it's got great stopping power while other people say that they've tested it and they can't even get good penetration off of windshields. And I think that the key factor there is distance. Okay, so 45 ACP, you got a bullet that starts off slow, right? So yeah, I mean, it's not going to slow down that much. Let's say to 17 yards, where that target is over there, right? But if you're shooting 100 yards, okay, you got a bullet that starts off slow, that because it's a fatter bullet is subject to more wind resistance, so it's slowing down at a faster rate compared to a 9mm, right? So that when it gets to 100 yards, yeah, I can see how, you know, how this same ammunition that might have, you know, good stopping power at, you know, let's say 15 yards, won't have great stopping power at 100 yards, right? So that's something for you guys to consider. So anyway, let's shoot this guy. Let's do the Rock Island first. And I don't think I definitely haven't shot this thing. I don't think this thing's been shot since 2020. Okay, so yeah, it hasn't been shot in 5 years. So let's shoot this guy, and then we'll shoot the other, the Taurus. I think I probably shot that within the last maybe 2 or 3 years. I haven't done a whole lot of shooting. Maybe I just ran through one magazine or something. But anyway, let's try this out. Oh, one of the things worth mentioning with these 1911s, one of the things that Browning, the designer of this, did do right is, because this thing it's got like the thumb safety, and then it's got the back strap safety. And the way I understand it, originally this gun only came with, in his original design, it only came with the back strap safety. Okay, and and then later on he added the thumb safety. So one of the things that I have noticed with some other guns, like the Shield EZ, that has both a thumb safety and a back strap safety, is that if you don't apply good pressure on the back strap safety, basically it won't deactivate and the gun won't shoot. Okay, so with guns that have thumb safeties like this, the way you're supposed to shoot this is with your thumb riding on top of that thumb safety, right? Because that's the only way you're going to be sure that it's off. Your thumb has to ride on top of it. So the issue is when your thumb is riding on top of that, like if I put my thumb forward, you can see how this meat here wraps around it. If I lift my thumb up, you can see how it takes some of the pressure off of that. So I've noticed it on two guns. One was the Shield EZ, and the other one was like a Turkish 10mm. I forgot the name of it. I did a review on it on my channel, but I had the same issue with that. When you're shooting that gun with your thumb riding on top of that thumb safety, it doesn't apply enough pressure to the thumb safety in order to deactivate it. Okay, I've never seen that to be the case with 1911s. With 1911s, if you just touch it, it's going to deactivate. So this was designed right. It's one of the things to be aware of. In my opinion, I mean I understand why back in 1911 they needed to have all these extra safeties, because they didn't have good holsters, right? They just had leather holsters. Today, with modern holsters, the holster is the safety mechanism. So this Glock 43 here doesn't need any safeties, because the safety protects the trigger, it retains the gun. You know, that's the safety mechanism. When I go home at night, I don't take the gun out of the holster and unload it. It goes like this in the safe. The next morning, it comes off out of the safe, and it goes on my belt like this, okay? So prior to getting these Kydex holsters that are form-fitted to the gun, right? You know, when they were throwing them into these loose leather holsters or these fabric holsters, yeah, that's the reason why they had to have multiple safeties on the guns. And from what I've heard, a lot of GIs, they still didn't trust the safety, so they would carry it with an empty chamber. Okay, and again, the reason was because they didn't trust the safeties. Now, whether that's right or wrong is besides the point. The fact is that a lot of guys have testified, have given, you know, account that, yeah, they did not trust it, so they carried it on an empty chamber. With today's pistols, with the holster technology having developed where it is, yeah, you can absolutely safely carry it with a round in the chamber. Okay, so let's do a little shooting here. Let me just make sure I'm still rolling. Yep, we're good. So yeah, with the safeties, I was saying, your thumb rides on top of the safety. By contrast, on the Beretta, right, you actually shoot that with your thumbs up because that safety works in the opposite direction. So you have to shoot that with your thumbs up, pushing back against the safety in order to make sure it's off. That's on the Beretta 92. Okay, so on 1911, with the safeties on the frame, thumb goes over the safety to make sure it's deactivated. I'm having a real hard time seeing that front sight. Okay, real hard time. Now I don't have great vision. Like basically, I should be wearing bifocals. Usually at this distance here, that front sight with because these aren't bifocals. These are basically my distant glasses. But usually I can see that front sight clear enough that I can take my shot, that I can focus on it. You know, because this is so low and so dark, I'm having a real hard time with this one over here. So one of the interesting things here with, again, this is more to the original style. This beaver tail here, you see how it kind of hooks down? So as I'm shooting it, like, yeah, it's definitely like digging into, like, right, you see right there how it's digging into it, especially with the thumb riding on top. See how that's digging in? I don't particularly like the original design, because the tendency is going to be for you to want to shoot this instead of riding it on top, right? Because that puts more pressure there. You're going to want to put your thumb down, but now you're not sure. You know, you can't be 100% sure if that thumb safety is off. So yeah, I do not like the original beaver tail on here. That's something that I discovered back in 2020 when I got this, and I just remembered now shooting it. As I was shooting, I'm like, oh man, that thing's sucking back there. Now on the Taurus 1911, they fixed it. You see how the beaver tail scoops up, right? So even with my thumb on top of the safety, on top of the thumb safety over there, it's not digging into my skin over here. So this is a much more comfortable 1911. Okay, so I mean, I know that's original, and if you've got, like, you know, if you've got a real boner for, like, you know, original antiques, I mean, yeah, you'd have to get that. But if you just want to shoot the gun and you want it to be comfortable, this Taurus design with the beaver tail that scoops up, way more comfortable to shoot. Let's shoot this. Again, I haven't shot this. I mean, I can't remember the last time I shot this. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a lot more comfortable. Yeah, the sight's a lot easier to see on this. Here's the thing with when you shoot Glocks, the tendency with Glocks is, just because of the way the trigger is, you have to kind of almost like hook it a little bit more and apply a little bit pressure. Like, you gotta apply a little inward pressure. If I'm shooting it lefty, I gotta do it in the opposite direction as I'm shooting. I gotta apply a little bit, you know, it's just the way my finger falls on the trigger. With 1911s, and again, I mostly shoot Glocks. With 1911s, I gotta remember not to do that. Okay, so with this, the way it's a thinner grip, the way the finger falls on the trigger, yeah, you don't need to hook it more. You just press it straight back. So yeah, there's definitely a slight difference in the way I press the trigger between a Glock and a 1911. But yeah, I kind of got dialed in there. Remember the first couple of shots I missed, and then I realized what was going on. I kind of remember how to shoot this thing again. So with this, you got to press the trigger straight back. So yeah, so I definitely got to pull this out every once in a while and get a little bit of practice with it. because yeah, I mean it's easy to forget those minor details, but it's a really nice design. You got the grips over here, so you can pinch it back from here. You got the grips here. I don't think the original one just had it in the back. They didn't have it in the front over there. So it's not basically. So here's the thing with the 1911s. It is an absolute pain in the ass to like take apart and clean. So I generally don't do it that often, and I'm not going to do it now. There's plenty of videos out there of people taking apart 1911s. But if you do take it apart, you'll notice that there's like the barrel has like 2 grooves over here that match up to the slide. So it basically locks. You know, it doesn't just lock into place the same way a Glock does. Right? So with a Glock, basically the barrel comes up and it locks into the slide. Okay, so that's Browning's design. You can see that piece over there. That comes up and it locks, comes up and locks into place. Right, so that's the 1911 thing that carried over to the Glock and most other semi-automatic pistols. But in the original Moses Browning design, he went a step beyond that. It's not just the barrel that comes up and locks. Well, actually, it doesn't lock in over here. There's these 2 rings a little bit further. There's 2 double rings. Those 2 rings come up and they lock. I'm going on memory now because, like I said, I haven't opened this up in quite a while. So there's 2 rings. You can't see them, but there's 2 rings over here that come up and lock into place. And you can see when I lock it open, it kind of tilts up a little bit. Doesn't quite tilt up as much as the Glock, but it does tilt a little bit. That's the tilt barrel design. So anyway, drop some comments. Let me know what you guys think. Definitely got to practice this a little bit more often. I'll talk to you soon.